Stop spending $70 on controllers when you can buy cheaper ones that do better than the originals. So first is my most recent controller. It's called ECHTPower, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it, but this one's really nice. It was only $20 on Amazon, and it's very comfortable. It's a switch layout, but you can always just switch them. It's not that big a deal. There's back buttons, which is very nice. There's Hall effect, which means that they will apparently never get drift, but I haven't had one long enough to test that. The bumpers feel very nice, and it also has sort of mouse click triggers. Well, it's only like half range of motion, so you can click very fast, and the face buttons also feel very nice too. The only con to this controller is that the joysticks could be a little better. The circularity is just not up to par with some other controllers, but for $20, it's a really good deal. Next up is this Retro Fighters Gamecube controller. Now, I know it's very weird to test this, but you know, some people really like the layout, and I gotta say, it is actually a really nice layout, but there are some flaws that come with it. Like, you can't strafe at 45 degrees for some reason. Minecraft just doesn't allow that. And it has the 8-way notches in there, so it kind of just like locks and makes you walk at the corners. But besides that, it's $40, and the layout can be a little bit confusing to people that have never touched one of those before. Besides that, it's really easy to press the bumpers. The joysticks are really smooth. It also has Hall effect, and the bumpers are really easy to press, and it just overall feels really nice. I can't really recommend this thing like to play competitive, but it's really fun if you want to just try something out. And it's also good for other games too. Next up is the Gamesir G7. Now, I love this thing. This is the only controller on here that has a NYXI software, which means that you can edit all the buttons and lower the dead zones and even increase the pulling rate to 1000 Hertz, which makes your controller just instantly responsive. I bought it originally for about $20, but because of popularity, it's a little bit new. So now it's about $30 on AliExpress and $45 on Amazon. The joysticks are incredibly nice on this thing, and they are Hall effect. I've never had any issues with it. It feels very similar to an Xbox Series X, which I've also used one of those, and I do think that this is slightly better because it has back buttons and no drift. The back buttons are also toggleable, so you won't accidentally press them. And if you butterfly or just have any double clicking method on bumpers, then you can actually click very fast. I got up to like 18 CPS with this thing. My only flaw, and it's kind of on me, is I used to jitter click a lot, and my bumper, like on it, just like you can kind of hear it in the click sounds, but the bumper is very worn down, and you can't really just replace it because it's off-brand. But most people just click with triggers anyway, so it's no big deal. Besides that, I highly recommend this thing if you play on Xbox. It made my aim a lot better when I switched to this thing. Alright, so next up is the PS4 controller. So I have been using this one that you're seeing on screen for over 8 years. It is incredibly old. It's very worn. There's like broken stuff in there, and of course it has controller drift. They always get controller drift after some amount of time, but the aiming is very smooth on PlayStation controllers. It's a very good size, and I do recommend getting some grips if you don't have some of those. The face buttons are really good, but there are a few cons that I want to note. So the triggers and bumpers are a bit too small in my opinion, and they are very prone to drift, obviously. So another problem with just PlayStation controllers in general is that when you connect them to like PC, you'll have issues, like not just like using DS4, but it'll like pick up as a sound device, so it'll like mess up your other devices on there. And most of the best controller players use PlayStation controllers, but I cannot recommend them because it's like $70. Are you serious right now? You really only get to use it for a couple months before you notice drift, so I wouldn't even say it's worth it in the long run. I mean, you could always just use one for like casual playing and another one for like serious fights, but I wouldn't recommend using PlayStation controllers in general, at least on PC. Next up is a PS5 controller. Now, I do think it's very much preference, but in my opinion, the PS5 controller is a little bit better. I think the size is very nice. The buttons are all good. The triggers and bumpers are a lot like larger, so it's easier to press them. The aiming is very smooth, and this controller does not have drift because I don't really use it that often, but I will get drift after a while, so that's why I don't use it that much. I don't want to get drift on it. This one is slightly more expensive than the PS4 controller, being around $75 new. They're very prone to drift, of course, and once again, connecting to PC has its own issues, but so far, I don't really think they're that bad in terms of like wasting $75, but I do think that there are better options. Now, I was also going to test the Xbox One S and Switch Pro controller, but I do not have a Switch Pro controller, and I didn't bother buying one because there's so many Switch controllers that are better for the price. And my Xbox One controller decided to just like not connect. I would just move it like slightly and it would just not work. So I easily cannot recommend Xbox official controllers. They feel very nice, but the connection issues are just not worth it, and the drift. Next up is 8BitDo. Now, I love these controllers. This was the first one I tested on my channel. Like, if you saw this video right here, these are amazing, but I do think that there are better options like the Gamesir G7. So these have very smooth aiming, but unfortunately you cannot go on like 0 dead zone without having some sort of drift. At least on this one, I don't know. I put it on lowest dead zones and it does slightly drift, but when I increase it, I don't even notice it, so it's still smooth either way. It's very comfortable. It's Switch layout, obviously, and it's $20. They're still $20. If you go on AliExpress, you can see these for $20. Amazing deal. My only issues with this controller is they get dirty very easily. I started to notice dirt about like a couple weeks in, and I'm pretty good at washing my hands, but I don't know, dirt just shows up really good on these controllers. And also the bumpers and triggers are a little weird. I don't personally. I've gotten to like the bumpers a little bit more, but the triggers are just a little too clacky for me. Last one I'm gonna talk about is this one, NYXI Ps4. Now this thing looks like something you'll find on Temu for like $7, but surprisingly enough, I'm very impressed by this thing. Now, I'm not sure if the dead zones would be as good on PlayStation. I have not tested it and I don't plan to, but on PC, you can lower the dead zones to be like perfect 0. These are Hall effect, and they don't lie about being Hall effect. My aim was incredibly smooth with these, and it says it's a PlayStation controller, but on PC, it converts it to X input, which is Xbox input. I don't know why it does that, but I'm not complaining because I do prefer Steam in most situations. The RGB, I believe, looks very nice. It's customizable, and you can also edit the rumble, but nobody uses that because who cares about that? And the bumpers are very clicky, very good for hand cams. I'm probably going to do a separate hand cam just for this controller because I really like how it sounds. The triggers are also very smooth. The joysticks are smooth. The back buttons, yeah, it has back buttons. $30 PlayStation controller with back buttons. Very rare nowadays, and in my opinion, this is just like better if you want to like set it up quickly on like PC, because you won't have the stupid connection issues where it thinks it's a sound device. Now, the only cons is that, you know, it's a little bit ugly and the size is a bit big for my liking, but I do think it's a very good option for $30. If anybody would like to test this on PlayStation, please comment, and I will be sure to like subscribe to your channel, and I'll probably watch the video eventually, we'll see. But anyways, in my opinion, you should not waste your money on main brand controllers. The only one I could recommend buying main brand would be PS5 or PS4, but that's only if you have the money for it. You better expect to get controller drift after a while. They're very comfortable controllers, but I just can't recommend them for like the average player. If you're like very serious into playing, then you should honestly just like rather get that or save for like a pro controller with Hall effect, because those are going to last you longer in the long run. So if you're on a budget, I would get the NYXI Ps4 controller if you're on PlayStation. If you're on Xbox, I could recommend you the Gamesir G7 or even the 8BitDo if you like that more. And for Switch, I'd easily recommend, well, you can find Switch controllers like anywhere, but for the ones that I've tested, I recommend 8BitDo products or ECHTPower. They're very nice controllers and they're just like way better for the price. I think overall I'd recommend ECHTPower more because it has the back buttons and you don't have to like change your controls or play claw. So thank you for watching, and if you have any other controller recommendations or just video ideas in general that you want me to try, then leave a comment. Have a good one, y'all.